So the countdown to this year's World Cup is well and truly on as 32 nations combine to create the greatest sporting spectacular on the bloody planet. But in this video, I'm going to try and answer you one simple question. Can South Korea win this year's World Cup? That's right, folks, back once again with another World Cup summary video. That's right, where we're going to try and answer one simple question. Can this nation actually go out and win the World Cup out in Qatar? We'll take a look at it, all of it, in a second. Of course, if you're new, where you been, smash your subscribe button, bang it, all things World Cup related, Blabbing Rovers related, world football itself related. We got it all here, boys, under one roof. Of course, the countdown is well and truly on, with the tournament set to kick off in November 2022, of course. But what's going to happen this coming World Cup? We'll take a look at all of it in a second. Of course, big shout out to my VIPs. They are the patrons, of course. And if you are interested in helping out the channel in another way, check out the links down below. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Twitch, I'm on Patreon, and of course there's a Discord in there. So get in amongst it and let's get chatting. Let's take a look at it then. South Korea coming at you representing Asia. That's right, the continent of Asia. And what a journey it's been for South Korea so far. It's been a long old journey as well. We'll of course explore that in a second, but let's take a look at the nation itself then. They of course qualified as Group A runners-up. We'll elaborate on how that panned out shortly. They secured the deal on the 1st of February 2022. It's their 11th tournament, goodness gracious me, the last in 2018 out in Russia. It's the 10th tournament in succession, so they are familiar faces, and of course I remember it quite vividly last round against Germany, where their quality and determination and the team spirit was enough for them to knock Germany out in the process. I think they also get knocked out, of course, 4th place back in 2002. That was when they hosted it. Can they reach those dizzy heights once again? I think it's going to be a tough old boot. It is a very, very tough old boot, this group as well. Paolo Bento's got the responsibility to turn this team into shockaroonies, shocking candidates, and maybe contenders to get out of this group. That is the primary focus for South Korea, is to get out of this group. Sung Min is, of course, the key man, the main man, of course, for South Korea. Can he fire the goals that gets them out of this group and into the knockout stages? Well, let's take a look at the graphic then down below. This is their journey. Of course, they were in this group, of course, in the early phases of the Asian qualifying campaign. They were paired up against North Korea, who withdrew. Sri Lanka, Turkmenistan, and Lebanon also joined them. And, of course, those top two, Lebanon and South Korea, made it through to the next stage, which, of course, was a very, very difficult encounter. Again, Lebanon paired up against them. Syria, Iraq, UAE, and, of course, Iran made up their group. And, of course, South Korea qualified alongside Iran in the top 2 spots. Just 2 points adrift of Iran and just 1 defeat to their name in the competition. Of course, just 3 goals conceded. That's 1 less than Iran as well. So a decent team they are, decent unit, of course. But can they get themselves out of this group? That's the question now. It is Group H. For me, it is the group of death. I cannot call it. Absolutely, I don't know which way to go on here. So they are paired up against Portugal, Ghana, and Uruguay, of course, in a very, very difficult game. The key game for me is match day number 1 against Uruguay. Of course, Uruguay former winners back in the day, 30 and 1950. But for me, getting themselves off to a flyer is absolutely monumental. Of course, they'll also be keeping an eye on the other game, same day, Portugal against Ghana. And if that was to end up in favour of South Korea, a win for them over Uruguay, which ain't out of the question, don't get me wrong. Every one of these teams could beat every one of these teams. It's so difficult to call, and again, it depends on which way the wind blows, who had their Weetabix, who got out on the right side of the bed. It's so difficult to call on this one, and that's why I think South Korea, if they can get off to a flyer against Uruguay and pick up the win, 3 points in the bag, then I think they're looking at just maybe 1 point or maybe 2 points at the final 2 games. They'll give themselves 2 chances to get that second victory, and of course match number 2 looks very, very much in their favour with Ghana. And then of course if they're going to pick up 4 points out of those 2 games, they are 1 tippy toe through to that knockout stage, and again causing a major ruckus in this year's World Cup, just like they did in Russia 4 years ago. So for me, that is of course the monumental game that they cannot afford to lose. If they are to lose against Uruguay, then they definitely need to bounce back, because basically they could be out when it comes to match number 3 against Portugal. Of course, you want to give yourself some hope heading into that final game. You want to be able to know when the game kicks off on that 3rd game, you've got some hope. If you've lost back-to-back games, more often than not, you're out. You're out. You need 4 points or more, I think, to get yourself through, or at least be serious contenders to go through. But this group is very, very difficult, and again, they'll be relying on the likes of Son Heung-min up top. Of course, phenomenal player for Spurs. He hasn't had the greatest start to the season in the Premier League, but it is early days. And of course, making sure he's there in Qatar 2022 is going to be massive. Of course, the season is a bit of a stop-start right now in England, with of course the stuff going on in the country as a whole. But if you know, Son Heung-min, we just got to make sure for the nation of South Korea, he is there and taking part. Without him, their chances of being contenders to qualify from this group go from serious to non-existent. He is that vital. Of course, there are players in a lot of these nations that are like Senegal, Sadio Mane. You take that guy out, you take Son Heung-min out of South Korea, they ain't got a hope in heck. They have got no hope in heck. For me, Son Heung-min is one of the top 10 players in the world right here, right now, in my eyes. And his ability could be the difference between success and failure in this group. And I'm not talking about the tournament as a whole. They should not even be thinking about anything else but this group. And to be honest with you, they shouldn't be thinking about anything else but that game against Uruguay. Get a result there, and of course you could start to believe that maybe, just maybe, you could have a crack at the quarterfinals and beyond for me. But the odds, 9-4 for them to qualify. As you can see, the odds now, again, if you go back, of course, the other two videos, and have a look at their odds, what the bookies are thinking. They are third favourites, and 250 to 1 to go the distance and lift the trophy, of course. 2002 seems a long way away, 20 years ago since they made the dizzy heights of fourth, backed on by their own fans, of course, in Korea, as they hosted jointly with Japan. But this time it's completely different. However, it's in Asia. Asia once again can, of course, the last time they had the tournament in Asia, you know, they did fourth. Can they do that once again? So, Linda, what you got for me?
Can they win the World Cup?
Can they win the World Cup? Age-old question, can they win the World Cup? Well, very difficult. Very difficult to this group is shit hot. It's so hard. And if you put South Korea in any other of the groups, Group A, you put them in a group with England, put them in I don't know, Argentina's group, they have a chance. To get out of this group is so hard. And I think... yeah, I think there's a case, there's an argument here that to say South Korea can actually win this World Cup. They can actually win this. But, Linda, give it to me straight.
Will they win the World Cup?
Will they win it? Heck no, of course they will not win this. But they can. There is an argument to say that South Korea can win this. And what I mean by that, I mean last 8. And again, when you come back and look at all these videos, all 32 of them, I've predicted more than 8 that can actually win this. But South Korea, when you look at this group, in the forward, it's you know, you're coming up against 3 other nations, I would say, are in the top 25 in the world. Maybe Ghana might not be in the top 25, but top 25 countries in the world. If you can get out of this group into that last 16, you deserve it. You deserve it, and you've got a player, an individual like Son Heung-min, is still at his peak. I think he's still got another 4, 6, 8 years, well, maybe at least 6 years at the top of the game to spearhead South Korea into you know, dizzy heights. And I think you know, the game against Uruguay is massive. If they win that game, they are tippy-toe, fingertip close to get into the last 16. And again, you know, if you ride this group well, and get out of this as group winners, you could be playing a Swiss Serbian team in the I think in the last 16. And again, you know what? You're in that last 8. You've got the potential to be in the last 8. It's so fine between success and failure in this group. So for me, I'm going to say, as much as they can win it, they won't win it. And again, you take Son Heung-min out of this. Uruguay are a little bit lucky. They've got more players. If Cavani's not firing, Nunes will fire. If Nunes ain't firing, Suarez will fire. So for me, I think group stages, unfortunately, is going to be the case for South Korea this time around. So there you have it, folks. There you bloody have it. A short, sharp take on this nation's chances out in Qatar 2022. What do you expect this country will do in this year's tournament? Do you think they'll get out of the group stages, or do you think they'll go deep into the competition itself? Let me know your opinion down below. And of course, we'll look forward to non-stop coverage right here at Blackburn Overseas. We're going to have, of course, predictions, previews, reviews, reactions, and of course, reactions from real fans themselves, of course. So that's all to look forward to this year out in Qatar 2022. So make sure you smash your subscribe, smash the thumbs up, and smash the little bell, boys and girls, as we look forward to a fantastic winter, or at least late 2022 of world football. Let me know your thoughts and opinions again about this nation, and of course the tournament itself, in the comment section. But until then, guys and girls, I'll see you soon for the next one.